Everybody says that photography requires an enormous investment to start off. Well, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, it does, but this is my photography kit for under €3,500 and it is all that you'll ever need to do everything from portrait to large commercial shoots. Hi, my name is Kristian and welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about the 3 pieces of kit that I will go to every single time I'm going to shoot, going out to take any sorts of photos really, everything from, well, macro photography all the way to portraits, commercial, fashion shoots, and all of the lookbooks and everything in between. Yes, I've got other lenses, not behind me, but I do have other lenses. I've got a 50mm, I've got an 85, and honestly these are my favorite. So I just want to kind of tell you why they're my favorite and how you'll never actually go wrong if this is what you take with you to your shoot. So is this genuinely worth the money? Well, we are here to say yes it is, but I'm going to kind of delve into each bit of kit and tell you why. You can of course get this sort of stuff for a lot cheaper, but this is what I went for, and this will deliver 100% of the time exactly what you're looking for if you know how to use it. So let us dive into what we have here in front of me. The kit primarily consists of a Sony A7R III. That is a 42.6 megapixel camera. I have on top of it at the moment a 105 Sigma macro lens, and I have to admit the quality on this is absolutely incredible. It is the professional series. It has an A, the Art, and I think the other one's a P or a C. Can't remember. You want the art model because then you're getting the clarity and everything that you need for a professional setup. The only thing that I would say about this lens is the autofocus is slightly slower than the equivalent Sony. So Sony do a 90mm macro lens. That's the only thing that I would compare this with. But it costs about an extra €500 new, and honestly this is a beautiful lens. I love the color rendition and everything like that Sigma has brought to the game, and honestly the only caveat is that speed of focus, and if you have enough kind of backlight or fill light, you're never actually going to struggle with that in any regard whatsoever. They are both 2.8 and well, obviously with macro uses a little bit more light to give you all of that detail, so kind of factor that in when you're thinking about macro shots. And then obviously my my little baby here, we have the Sony G Master 35mm. It's a 1.4, so that really gives you a lot of flexibility in low light situations without actually having to sacrifice and compromise on any other parameters. So you can keep your shutter speed and your ISO low just to make sure you have that the image quality that you are actually required from large professional commercial shoots where you're delivering large projects and companies have invested thousands and thousands into this shoot, and it is up to you to make sure that you get it right every single time, because if you don't, that is your reputation on the line, and as photographers, let's face it, that's all we really have, word of mouth. And this is probably the biggest thing that will get you more work is the producers and all of these sorts of people on sets giving your name to their friends. So let's go a little bit more into detail about each individual aspect and I'll tell you why I love it. Obviously I've got a couple of filters on the end here. So this is a Lee filter. So it's a CPL filter, which means it's a polarizing filter. It basically eliminates rebounded light off surfaces. So when you're shooting, and maybe you're shooting with a little bit of backlight or something like this, maybe the maybe the model has slightly oily skin, and what this does is you can kind of turn it so that I'll probably actually put a little bit of a demonstration in here right now for you, because it's much better when you actually see it. So yeah, so the CPL takes away the rebounded light, and the other one that I do love here is a little mist filter, because this is a very, very sharp camera, especially when I'm doing portraits. I do want to kind of soften that look a little bit. Otherwise, sometimes you just got way too much clarity. You can see every single pore, every single wrinkle on someone's face. And let's face it, the majority of people don't want to know how old they look. They want to see what they look at in the mirror. And let's face it, not everybody's eyesight is perfect. So it's up to you to make sure that you know how the person views themselves. But this is a completely different topic, so let's get back to the point. Mist filter, really, really nice. I think this is a quarter, yeah, Pro Mist Tiffin, and 1/4. So they do a little bit more misty, a little bit less misty. I do like the quarter, the half as well, but that's a little bit too much for me. So yes, we have, these are incredible, and let's dive into why. So a question I get asked quite a lot is, why this combination? So I want to start by talking about the 35mm. So the 35mm as a lens is kind of in the middle. So you've got 16 to 24 is obviously classed as a wide angle, so you've got a lot of field of view, and people tend to say, oh yeah, this is kind of more fashiony. But when you are in confined spaces and this sort of stuff, yes, the 24, the 16 is going to be a lot more versatile for that situation. But I feel that a 35mm gives you everything that you need for everything from fashion to commercial shoots, based on the fact that the compression and distortion from the lens itself isn't so vast that when you get really, really close to your subjects, you're not getting massive hands if it's just a little bit closer to the camera, and that kind of obscure effect when you're not really looking for that sort of distinct look. Yes, okay, in fashion it can be really, really cool, but if you're just actually trying to get a nice quality image, this is absolutely perfect, because if you do get close to your subject, the 35mm compression isn't going to make your subject look bad. It's actually quite a flattering look, and in the grand scheme of things, what you've got is a field of view that is small enough that basically you get your subject, you get the environment around it, but it's kind of narrow enough that you're not too distracted by where you are. You've got a focal point of your subject, and that is very, very clear and much easier to bring out, especially if you're just learning photography. And this is kind of something that you need to focus on, is your composition and everything like that. And the slightly narrower point of view of a 35 compared to a 24 or 16. And obviously the 24 is quite a lot of where kit lenses start. So I'm sure quite a lot of you have had experience on this lower end. And honestly, I do like the wide, and I do like saying, look how much I can see. And because of that wide field of view, a lot more is in focus based on the focus principles that we've talked about in previous videos. If you haven't had a look at that, they're really, really important, and that is something that you do need to kind of pay attention to. So if we're looking at 35mm, you get a great depth of field, but you can get in close to your subject, and all of these are very, very important. And just the versatility of the different situations that you can do with this, in my eyes, as a fashion photographer and portraits and all of this sort of, and a commercial photographer as well, All of this sort of stuff is so important because that is what your client sees. They don't know about the physics behind a 24 or 35, the depth of field. This is actually your job to know all of this, and your job to advise your client based on this knowledge. And honestly, you're not going to go wrong with something like this. The 35mm, in my opinion, is one of my favorite lenses. The 1.4 aperture on the Sony is something that I use more practically now than aesthetically. I have given it a lot of practice in the past, and oh yeah, by the way, this comes with a lens hood as well. I just couldn't find it today because I normally use the CPL filter on the front, and you can't put the lens hood on front of the on the filter, so this got packed in in another box, and then when I moved, I haven't actually unpacked that box because it was just random stuff that I don't really use all the time, and because, well, obviously I prefer the CPL filter to a hood, because, you know, you've always got your hand if you need a hood. So yeah, sorry, the 1.4 on this is something that I use more practically nowadays rather than aesthetically, because when you're taking pictures in low light, especially the focus on the camera actually uses your maximum aperture. So the 1.4 versus the 2.8, this can focus a lot better in much lower light than this can. So even if I've boosted the ISO and this sort of stuff, you know, this actually the ISO it will focus actually pretty much better if you whack up the ISO, but that's not something that you want to do because you're obviously going to put a lot of noise into your image. The 1.4 does really help that that focus in the lower light conditions, but it also means that you don't have to compromise on other aspects of your shoot, shutter speed, ISO, and all of this sort of stuff, because you know that depth of field is very important. If you take a couple of steps back with the 35mm, you're actually increasing that depth of field as well by quite a significant amount. It's done by the square of the distance, so you know, you step back, you're increasing it by well, the square of the distance that you've stepped back. So if you step back 1 meter, increase it by 1 time. If you step back 2 meters, increase by 4. So yes, this is very cool. But it's the focus and the speed of the focus that 1.4 really benefits over any other kind of smaller maximum aperture. So that is an incredible lens, especially in the low light, because the focus is just something that actually really distracts me from my composition and this sort of stuff. So if the focus is more taken care of, then I know that I can focus on the more important parts of the shoot and deliver just that exceptional images that you're trying to deliver from your work as well. Okay, I just want to quickly talk to you about the macro lens that I have. The Sigma 105 2.8 is a really versatile lens. It is beautifully made. It is from the art, as I said earlier, and honestly, it's got a few buttons on the side. It's got a I sync this to a focus. You have autofocus to manual, and then you have your focus range. You've got full, then you've got your normal, which is 0.295 meters. That's 30 centimeters to everyone else, or unless you're American, which is about a foot, I think. And then you have everything, sorry, that's 0.5 meters to infinity. And then your macro is 0.295 to 0.5. So you can just move it there, and then it'll only focus on that range. Then you've got the other range, which is 0.5 meter to infinity. And then if you have it on full, there's two different kind of focusing systems. So if you've got it on full and you're only actually doing distance or macro, the focus might kind of skip and it will scan the whole distance, and that takes time, and sometimes you just don't have that. So especially if you're taking something like an insect or something, you want it on the right setting. So this is a beautiful lens, and due to the fact that it is a macro, it means that it's got a kind of 1:1 real world resolution, which means in practical terms that let's say you're taking a picture of an insect, okay? This insect is 1 centimeter tall, or 0.3-ish. No, it's a little bit less, 0.25 of an inch. So that means that on your sensor, that insect is going to be exactly the same size. So it means that the thing that you're taking a picture of is the reproduction on your camera sensor itself is 1:1. So this is what I use to convert all of my film. So instead of scanning it all, what I do now, and this is only a recent thing because I only just got a 3D printer, so I only just printed, made myself a little thing, and I can show you that later. But it means that I can scan in all my film, and the reproduction is actually of a very, very good quality because it is the 1:1. And if you don't have that, you're going to start introducing warping artifacts and other stuff like this. And that's not what you want when you're scanning in film. Anyway, this is a great lens, and the only thing that I would really say as a caveat is the 2.8 means that it can be a little bit slower on the focus end in darker conditions. The macro in itself eats a little bit of light as well, and because it is kind of so long, it's 105 millimeters. I'm not talking about the length. I'm talking about the focal kind of length of the camera, the lens. Sorry, means that you don't actually have to occupy the same space as your subject when you're trying to do that detailed close-up shots. When you're talking about fashion, portraiture, and when you're working with subjects. I really like taking pictures of eyes. I'll show you a couple of pictures of eyes that I've taken with this lens. And it means that you're actually 30 centimeters away. You're not actually occupying the same space. I've used a macro lens that was a friend's. It's an old Canon, so I had to use a converter and all of this sort of stuff. It was completely all manual. Beautiful, beautiful lens, and I'll show you a picture of that now because I took a picture of a beautiful, beautiful girl's eye. But when I was taking this photo, I was literally right here. So we were breathing the same air, and it was a little bit uncomfortable for both of us, I think, especially her, to be honest, because I just kept getting closer and closer and closer just to make sure that I was getting the shot. She was lying on the floor going, oh, sorry, I'll beep that out. Anyway, what a great lens this is, and honestly, if I only had €3,500, this is exactly what I would end up with 100% of the time, because you can get the camera body now for about 1,000, 1,500-ish, and then you can get these lenses. Okay, fair enough, this costs about 1,500, this is about 700, and these are about €100 each. I think that's about 140 actually. That's about 100. So in total, honestly, you are never going to go wrong. I do want to have a quick chat about 42 megapixels. And 42 megapixels can be a little bit of an overkill. But if you're doing commercial work and you ever plan on doing any commercial work, that 42 megapixels means that your images can be blown up to absolutely massive sizes without losing any quality at the time. So it does mean that you have to have a little bit more control over your light, because obviously you can't boost your ISO because you're introducing a lot more noise into your situation, and you're losing the clarity that, especially for commercial work, that is so crucial and important. So, is it overkill in my opinion? No, because it means that I can crop, and because I don't have zoom lenses, and the zoom lenses, okay, yeah, Sony have released an f2, and honestly, I think it's a beautiful lens. Sadly, I've never got to put my hands on it. It's a 50 to 150 millimeter f2. Wow, absolutely amazing. And I would really, really like to use this, because I think the I think the versatility in itself of this lens just means that, well, would I ever get rid of my macro? No, I wouldn't. But it would mean that I'd have a third lens in my bag. And I can honestly say that if I was just out and about kind of shooting, that lens would be on my camera quite a lot of the time. It is a little bit more bulky than these, but the versatility that it gives you is just so huge. And after a certain number of years of taking photos, you do get a little bit lazy changing the lenses so much. So yeah, I think if you have a decent zoom, but with the zoom you are sacrificing the amount of light that the lens can accept based on the just natural physics of how things work. And if you are having a lot more elements in your lens, you do lose the ability to have it at such a large aperture. So you know, these are all kind of things that you really have to think about when actually purchasing any of these items. And hopefully, after we've discussed all of this today, you are actually a little bit more kind of aware of what you're getting yourself into and what each of these elements, especially when combined together, can actually give you the results and everything that you expect and want to achieve from your shoot. So if you are currently building your kit and you don't know where to put your money at the moment, I can honestly say that, okay, you don't want to be on the Sony ecosystem, anything like that, so I'm going to keep this very generic. A half decent body combined with a very good lens is going to get you 85% of the way there. I would say a little bit of versatility in lens, so if you have a zoom lens, okay, one lens and you're good. You need more than one prime because you do need some detail and portrait sort of work, and then you need something where you can capture a lot more of the environment and the set and all of this sort of stuff to be able to tell stories. This is a lot more versatile. So if you are really looking, so a solid lens, and that is where your money needs to go, combined with a decent body, but you're looking at sensor size and all of this sort of stuff. If you've just got the budget for that, a Canon mirrorless, a Sony mirrorless, and all of these sorts of things, the Fuji, although this is going to be crop sensor, so let's not talk about that for now. A great body combined with a mediocre body combined with a great lens is going to be much better than the reverse. If you have a great body and a mediocre lens, you're actually cutting yourself short, because that is what captures the light, and that is the most important part of your system. So ensure that your lens is incredible, then think about the body, and then think about maybe adding another lens or two to your system to give you more versatility and more capability in general shoots. So let me hear about what you think about your lens. Tell me in the comments, what do you have set up on your camera? Do you have your do you have a better body than lens? If so, let me hear your thoughts and what you think about all of this. So thank you.